Listen carefully, because what I'm about to explain could affect the money you depend on every single month. There's a new Trump-linked proposal being discussed that could change Social Security payments, and depending on how it's written, it could either add money to some checks or quietly reduce future benefits for others. And most people are only hearing the headline, not the details that actually matter to your wallet. If you're a senior, a retiree, disabled, or living on a fixed income, this conversation is not political noise. This is about real dollars, your rent, your groceries, your prescriptions. And the truth is, proposals like this don't usually come with a warning label that says who wins and who loses. That's why today's update is important. Before we go any further, if you rely on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or Medicare, or if you're close to retirement, take a second to subscribe. This channel focuses on clear, calm, fact-based updates without fear or hype, so you always understand what's real and what's just talk. Now, let's talk about why this proposal is even happening right now. Social Security is under pressure. That's not a scare tactic. It's been openly discussed for years. The trust fund that helps pay benefits is projected to face shortfalls in the next decade if nothing changes. At the same time, inflation has hit seniors harder than almost anyone else. Even with recent COLA increases, many people feel like their checks buy less every month. Groceries cost more. Utilities cost more. Medicare premiums keep rising. And for millions of households, Social Security isn't extra income, it is the income. That combination creates a perfect storm. Lawmakers feel pressure to act, especially as election cycles approach. Big promises get floated, headlines start flying, and suddenly you hear phrases like boost benefits, protect seniors, or modernize Social Security. But here's the part most people miss. When someone proposes to add money somewhere, it usually means money has to come from somewhere else. This new Trump-related proposal is being discussed in that exact context. Some supporters are framing it as a way to strengthen Social Security and reward workers. Critics warn it could shift costs onto certain groups or slow benefit growth down the road. Both sides are using broad language, which makes it confusing for regular people just trying to understand one simple thing. Will my check go up, go down, or stay the same? To answer that, we need to slow this down and strip away the noise. Social Security is funded mainly through payroll taxes. Workers pay in during their careers, and those funds help pay current beneficiaries. When costs rise faster than revenue, lawmakers start looking at adjustments. Those adjustments can take many forms. Sometimes they raise taxes, sometimes they change formulas, sometimes they delay benefits, and sometimes they combine all three. What makes this proposal tricky is that it's being discussed as a package deal. On the surface, there are ideas that sound good to seniors. Talk of protecting current retirees, adjusting benefits, or making sure payments continue without disruption. But buried inside those ideas are technical changes that could affect future payments, cost of living adjustments, or eligibility rules. For example, one version being talked about could allow slightly higher monthly payments for certain retirees now, especially those already receiving benefits. But at the same time, it could change how future COLA increases are calculated, meaning checks may not rise as quickly over time. That doesn't show up right away. It shows up slowly, year after year, when inflation hits, and your check doesn't stretch as far as you expected. Another discussion point involves who pays more into the system. Some versions suggest changing how much higher earners contribute, which could help stabilize funding. Others shift the balance by encouraging people to delay retirement longer. That might sound harmless, but for workers in physically demanding jobs or those with health issues, delaying retirement isn't always an option. And here's an important thing to understand right now. Nothing has been passed. No checks are changing today. No payments are being stopped. No new rules are in effect. This is a proposal phase. But this is exactly the phase where details get shaped, amended, and sometimes quietly altered before the public realizes what's happening. That's why paying attention early matters. Seniors often hear about changes at the very end, when letters arrive or payments look different. By then, there's little room to prepare. Understanding proposals now gives you time to ask questions, plan budgets conservatively, and avoid panic caused by misleading headlines. As we move forward, I'm going to explain exactly what parts of this proposal could add money to checks, which parts could reduce growth over time, and how different groups, retirees, SSI recipients, SSDI beneficiaries, and near retirees could be affected differently, not with guesses, with realistic examples and plain language. Because this isn't about politics, it's about making sure you know where you stand before decisions are made for you. And once you understand how these proposals really work, the headlines stop being scary and start making sense. Now let's talk about what this proposal actually says, and just as importantly, what it does not say. Because this is where confusion usually starts and where a lot of misleading information spreads online. Right now, there is no single final bill with a clean title and clear instructions. What's being discussed is a framework of ideas tied to Trump-era policy thinking that focuses on strengthening Social Security without openly calling it a cut or a tax increase. That language sounds reassuring, but it also leaves a lot of room for interpretation. One of the main ideas being discussed is changing how money flows into the Social Security system. Social Security is funded mostly by payroll taxes, and currently there's a cap on how much income is taxed each year. Income above that cap is not taxed for Social Security purposes. Some versions of this proposal talk about adjusting that cap. Supporters say this could bring more money into the system and protect current retirees. Critics say it could change how benefits are calculated later on, especially for people who are still working or close to retirement. Here's a simple example. Imagine someone who worked for decades and is now receiving about $1,600 a month in Social Security. Under certain versions of the proposal, their current check would likely stay the same. In some cases, it could even be slightly higher if lawmakers decide to add a temporary boost or adjustment. That's the part people hear and share. What they don't hear as often is what happens after that. Another major idea being discussed involves how future benefit increases are calculated. Cost of living adjustments, known as COLA, are supposed to help checks keep up with inflation. But COLA is based on a formula, and small changes to that formula can have big effects over time. One version being floated could use a different inflation measure or slow the rate of increase slightly. On paper, it looks minor. In real life, it could mean your check grows slower each year while prices keep climbing. To put that in perspective, if your Social Security check is $1,600 today and inflation runs higher than expected, even a small reduction in COLA growth could mean hundreds of dollars less per year over time. Not all at once, slowly, quietly. And that's why these proposals are often hard to spot unless someone breaks them down clearly. There's also discussion around encouraging people to work longer before claiming full benefits. This is sometimes described as flexibility or incentives, but the practical effect can be that full benefits are harder to reach for people with health issues or physically demanding jobs. For someone who planned to retire at a certain age, even a small rule change can throw off an entire budget. Now let's be very clear about what this proposal does not include, because rumours are everywhere. There is no language that says Social Security checks are being stopped. There is no plan to cancel benefits. There is no immediate change to payment dates. No one is losing their check tomorrow. SSDI and SSI are not being eliminated. Medicare is not being removed. Those claims are false. What is happening is a discussion about long-term funding and structure. And those discussions often include trade-offs. Lawmakers try to balance protecting current beneficiaries with changing the system for future ones. That's where people get divided into groups without realizing it. For example, someone already retired and living solely on Social Security may see little to no change at first. Someone who is 62 and planning to retire soon could see different calculations depending on when changes take effect. Someone receiving SSDI might not see direct changes, but indirect effects could come through COLA adjustments or Medicare premium offsets. And SSI recipients who already receive lower payments are often affected by broader policy shifts in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Another important detail is timing. Even if something passes, changes to Social Security usually roll out slowly. Sometimes they apply only to new beneficiaries. Sometimes they phase in over several years. That means two people with similar work histories could end up with different benefits depending on when they retire. That's not speculation, it's how past changes have worked. This is also where payment delays and errors can come into play. When rules change, the Social Security Administration has to update systems, recalculate benefits, and send notices. That's when overpayments, underpayments, and confusing letters can happen. Seniors often get worried when they see unexpected mail or account changes, even if nothing is wrong. The key takeaway right now is this: the proposal is not a simple more money or less money decision. It's a combination of short-term stability and long-term adjustments, and depending on where you are in life, the same proposal could feel like help or harm. Now let's bring this out of Washington language and into real life, because policy only matters if you understand how it shows up in your kitchen, your mailbox, and your bank account. Think about a senior who relies almost entirely on Social Security. Maybe their monthly benefit is around $1,450. Rent takes a big portion of that. Utilities, groceries, and prescriptions take the rest. There isn't much room for surprises. Under most versions of this proposal, that person's base check would not suddenly drop. That's important to say clearly. But where the change could be felt is in how fast that check grows over time. If COLA increases slow down even slightly, the effect compounds. 1 year it feels small. 2 years in, you start noticing it. 5 years later, the gap becomes very real. Prices don't wait. Food, insurance, and medical costs tend to rise faster than official averages. So even a modest change to how COLA is calculated can quietly reduce buying power, even if the dollar amount on the check technically goes up. Now think about someone receiving both Social Security and SSI. This group is especially vulnerable because SSI has strict income and asset limits. Any change in how benefits are calculated or adjusted can trigger reviews. Even a small increase in Social Security could reduce SSI eligibility dollar for dollar. That means some people might see a higher Social Security payment but lose SSI support, leaving them no better off or sometimes worse off, depending on their situation. For SSDI recipients, the situation can be different but still complicated. SSDI benefits are tied to work history and disability status. Changes to COLA formulas affect SSDI just like retirement benefits. On top of that, Medicare premiums are often deducted directly from SSDI checks. If premiums rise faster than benefits, net payments can feel smaller even when the gross amount goes up. That's something many people experience and don't understand until it happens. Now consider someone who is close to retirement. Maybe they're 61 or 62, still working part-time and planning carefully. A proposal that encourages delayed retirement or adjusts benefit formulas can change the math quickly. Waiting longer might increase monthly benefits on paper, but it also means more months without income if someone can't keep working. Health, job availability, and caregiving responsibilities don't always line up with policy incentives. Widows and widowers are another group that often gets overlooked. Survivor benefits follow their own rules. Any adjustment to benefit calculations can affect how much a surviving spouse receives, especially if they're choosing between their own benefit and a survivor benefit. These decisions are already stressful. Policy changes add another layer of uncertainty. Then there's the issue of administration. Whenever Social Security rules change, the Social Security Administration has to update systems and process millions of records. That's when delays and mistakes are most likely. Overpayments happen, underpayments happen, letters go out that confuse people, appeals increase. And for seniors who rely on every dollar arriving on time, even a temporary delay can be frightening. This is why it's so important not to react emotionally to headlines. The biggest risk for seniors isn't usually the policy itself, it's confusion. People panic, change claiming decisions too quickly, or fall for misinformation that leads them to make choices that hurt them long term. There are a few practical steps everyone should be taking right now, regardless of how this proposal turns out. First, make sure your information with the Social Security Administration is up to date. Your address, bank account, and contact information should be correct. Second, create a conservative budget that doesn't assume big future increases. Treat any talk of added money as uncertain until it's officially confirmed and in your account. Third, pay attention to official notices, not social media posts. The SSA communicates changes through letters, official statements, and your online account. If something truly changes, you will be notified. And finally, understand how work income, Medicare premiums, and other benefits interact. Many people lose money not because of cuts, but because they didn't realize how one change affects another. The reality is, this proposal could help some people in the short term while creating challenges over time for others. It could protect current beneficiaries while shifting the burden onto future retirees, and it could create uneven outcomes based on age, income, and health. Now let's talk about what actually happens next, because this is where a lot of fear gets replaced with clarity. Right now, this is still a proposal. That means discussions, drafts, talking points, and political messaging, not law. For anything to truly change, it has to move through a long process that includes formal legislation, debate, amendments, votes, and implementation timelines. Social Security does not change overnight. It never has. Even when changes are approved, they are usually phased in slowly, sometimes over years. That's important for your peace of mind. Your current Social Security, SSI, or SSDI payment is not suddenly disappearing. Checks are still being paid. Payment schedules remain the same. Medicare coverage continues. The system doesn't flip a switch and leave seniors without income. Any real change comes with notice, transition periods, and rules about who is affected and when. What you should realistically expect is continued discussion. You'll hear more headlines. Some will claim benefits are being increased, others will warn of cuts. Most of those stories will leave out critical details. The safest approach is to focus on confirmed information from official sources and ignore emotionally charged claims that don't explain how changes would actually work. One of the smartest things you can do right now is plan as if nothing extra is coming. Build your budget around what you already receive. If increases happen in the future, treat them as a cushion, not a guarantee. This mindset protects you from disappointment and keeps your finances stable no matter what politicians promise. It's also wise to review how Medicare premiums affect your net Social Security check. Many seniors are surprised to learn that their check can increase on paper but feel smaller after deductions. Understanding your net amount helps you plan better and avoid confusion if changes occur. If you're still working or close to retirement, don't rush big decisions based on rumors. Claiming Social Security is a permanent choice. Waiting a few months for clarity is often better than locking in a decision based on incomplete information. The same goes for caregivers, widows, and disabled workers. Policy changes should be understood fully before taking action. There's also a broader truth that doesn't get said enough. Social Security is one of the most politically sensitive programs in the country. Millions of Americans depend on it. That's why proposals often sound dramatic, but move slowly. Lawmakers know that sudden harm to beneficiaries would have real consequences. That doesn't mean changes won't happen, but it does mean they are usually measured, debated, and adjusted along the way. The most powerful position you can be in is an informed one. When you understand how Social Security works, how proposals differ from laws, and how changes affect different groups, fear loses its grip. Headlines stop controlling your emotions. You start making decisions from a place of confidence instead of panic. As this situation continues to develop, stay focused on facts, not speculation. Watch for official updates, read notices carefully, ask questions when something doesn't make sense, and remember that knowledge gives you time to prepare, adjust, and protect yourself. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what city or state you're watching this from and what concerns you most about Social Security right now. Are you worried about COLA, Medicare costs, delays, or future eligibility? Your questions help shape future updates and make sure this channel covers what actually matters to you. At the end of the day, Social Security is about stability. It's about dignity, and it's about making sure people who worked, paid in, or became disabled aren't left guessing about their future. No fear, no hype, just clear explanations so you can move forward with confidence.